As a lead into today's exercise, I'd like to introduce to you an amazing individual that I met before I met Dr. Smith, Dr. Sandra Siegel, a Jungian analyst from Los Angeles, whom a friend of mine brought to our city and introduced to me, and whose work I was fascinated with. What had happened to her was that quite spontaneously and not through any intention of her own, she was sitting one day talking with a 9-year-old girl when she began to hear in the girl's voice a special intonation. And that intonation gave her information about what was really going on at the deepest level within this girl, much deeper than anything that she could relate historically, about what she was feeling or thinking. Um, this became so useful to Dr. Siegel that she began to offer it publicly to organizations who came to her and through the way that she worked things were able to determine the personality of the individual from the sound of their voice. Now, what was useful to this was that at the level of there being differences between people, she was able, with the Ford Motor Company and with Hughes Aircraft, to create working teams of individuals who, because they knew the personalities that we're working with were different than they were able to put together amazing creative works. At the other end of the spectrum, there were kids who, in the school system, were being identified as special needs kids. And that was that they didn't particularly fit with the way that the Western education system had designed classes and the way people learn here in the West. And she was able to take these kids, many of these kids who were seen as special needs kids, and put them together with other kids that were like them and with a teacher who also saw the world in the same way. And what a fascinating way of going about things, because indeed, this was a simple solution to what is often a complex problem that ends up with kids being put on medication or kids going through special classes and kind of a dumbed down form of education, which is exactly what those kids don't need. So anyway, having met Dr. Siegel, I was fascinated enough that I signed on to train with her for 6 months, and she was offering monthly training sessions. And when we went to the training session, we did an exercise that was at least somewhat similar to the one that I'm going to introduce to you now. But to start off, let's go back and say that she had developed this ability to discern from a voice the particular characteristics of that person. And as a result, she was able to construct in her own mind their personality. And she found out that there were 4 classical composers who wrote in the pure tones of the 3 particular ways which she heard in the voices. So these 4 composers were the only ones who ever wrote pure music. Everybody else wrote a combination of the different sounds, and therefore it was not possible to pick out the particular sound. But these composers, 2 of whom had the same sound in mind, Chopin and Beethoven, and the other 2 were represented by the composer Paganini, Niccolo Paganini, and by the famous composer and artist Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. So what we're going to do today is we're going to listen as Sandra Siegel would have listened, not through our ears, but through our bodies. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to register in our ears, but what we're wanting to do as we listen to this music is listen with our whole body and see where this particular music hits on the body. It either hits here on the head, or it hits it in the upper thorax, or it hits in the lower abdomen and hands. Okay, so those are the three possibilities. The music also, because it's pure, either moves in one of three directions, either up and down, or around us like an old 78 record, or out from us and out to the corners of the room. When you listen to the music, I'm going to ask you, or at least give you the opportunity, to speak in terms of your experience. Now, I studied this for 6 months. It took me 6 months to be able, when the music was, I would hear the music, and any music by the same composer would do, not just the pieces that we've chosen, but the music pieces would be heard in one of the three body areas more than the others. I'm not saying they wouldn't be heard throughout the whole body, but the music would tend to concentrate itself in one place. The other thing is that the music would tend to move in a specific direction. Wherever it was, it would either move up and down, or around, or out into the room. And what we're going to do is to simply give you an opportunity to listen to each one of them one by one, and they're available through a specific link on my website. And once you have done this, and you might get some of them right. There have been a few people that have got all of them right at the beginning, but it took me 6 months to learn how to really identify the music when I heard it. So don't think it has to be instantaneously. But I will tell you that because of Smith's ear acupuncture, it happens much faster than we learned it in the classes. Probably we would have learned it over the course of 2 weekends rather than 6. So I think you're going to be delighted by this, but there's one thing that I want to add to it, and that is that at the time of Sandra Siegel's meeting with us in Ottawa, the word mindfulness was not yet in frequent use. And what we realize in looking back is what she was really teaching was for people to be mindful enough that they could let in the specific sound and concentrate on that sound and receive it simply because they had reached a state where they were receptive without vested interests. So what I'd like you to do is enjoy this, and then you'll find out that there is a practice that you're going to practice this, and in a fairly short order, you're going to be able to use the mindfulness that comes out of it to produce neuroplastic change that would be hard to do unless you had this particular tool. So enjoy, let the tool come to you, and don't expect that it has to be right away.